welcome to episode 18 of Tales from a Disappearing City. I'm down here in sunny Devon with my good old friend Rachel, Miss Pink. How you doing today, Rachel?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing to be on. As always, I'll start with sort of beginnings of where you first got into music and your sort of background.
Yeah.
So that's not a Devon accent you've got at the moment, is it?
So, well, I was born in Clydebank, just outside Glasgow, and then moved up to the Highlands when I was about 2, so I'm a Highlander.
Yeah.
And regarding music, my dad was a big jazz, like really into jazz, really into his music, really into buying records. So it was definitely around. But then I suppose, I just usual listening to the top 40 until I became a goth, probably.
Yeah. What was the first record you actually bought? Do you remember that?
The first record I actually bought was Tony Basil, Oh Mickey. Oh Mickey, it's a fan, you blow my mind, hey Mickey.
Yeah, don't sing anymore, we'll get a copyright strike. But yeah, no, that is a classic.
It is a classic.
Do you know what? My sister Stacey, she bought that. I remember we went to the States in '82, and I remember that was such a massive hit then.
Yeah, so it would have been about that time, yeah.
Yeah. But she was a choreographer, wasn't she? She did
I'm not sure. I mean, I love the cheerleader look as well,
Yeah, well, I did then when I was, I'm not going to say anything else about loving the cheerleader look, but all right. But yeah, okay, so Mickey was the first one.
Yeah.
Any other stuff you were buying then?
So then a bit later, it was mostly tapes. The one that sticks in mind is the Chameleons Script to the Bridge album. Okay. And I like the artwork on it, knew not very little about them, sort of fitted into that goth indie, like kind of bit melancholy.
Yeah, they're one of them bands. Funny if I heard about them the other day, and I don't know a lot about them. They sort of went under the radar for me, but I know they're one of them bands in the gothy sort of scene that obviously maybe the real heads know, but yeah.
Weird cult. They're just not known by many people, and my now husband Phil, it was something that I just couldn't believe that he knew that album, like kind of, because it's just one of those weird.
Do you know where they were from, or?
I can't remember. I was going to say Sheffield, but I'd probably be totally wrong.
No, that's all right.
But yeah, and then when Phil and I got together, they were touring that album, the complete album.
Okay.
Kind of. So it took me back to buying that tape.
Oh, okay. All right,
other than that, tape, The Cure, and then full on goth. So Sisters of Mercy, Bauhaus. Fields of the Nephilim. The Nephilim I became a bit obsessed with.
All right. Tell me what do you remember what made you go, I loved goth music as a teenager?
As a moody goth.
Well, look, I was a goth back in the day as well, so and I've got photos to prove it. Yeah. Do we have photos of you as a goth that I can cut in at this point?
We do have photos of me as a goth, yeah. Some better than others.
You were Miss Black then, not Miss Pink.
Yeah, although I started dyeing my hair black, I suppose, when I was 15, and then started dyeing the ends different colours.
Okay.
So like kind of red ends, purple ends. But yeah, I mean, I was full on white makeup. Frilly white blouse. I mean, sort of Dave Vanian. Yeah, also loved the Damned and that kind of. The whole lot.
Was this in the Highlands?
This was in the Highlands.
How did that go down? Was there lots of goths in the Highlands?
No, but there was a core, I think, like lots of small places.
Yeah.
And this probably comes up a lot again and again. There were certain places where the goths, the punks, anyone that was slightly different hung out kind of thing. But there was quite a few kind of, and a couple of my mates in school.
So you weren't sort of shunned or like...
Well, yeah, no, but kind of get bricks thrown at us in town, like kind of.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've told this story. I think I said it to Uncle G because he grew up near me in Woolwich and Abbey Wood, and like going out when I was dressing at that stuff was dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was dangerous for a woman as much as a bloke, but you would be.
Yeah, I think our male friends suffered more because especially if they had makeup on and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They definitely got more grief.
I know it's mad though, is it? Because I can't think how brave I was back at the time doing all that sort of stuff, and like it was well, I'm not saying it's tolerant now, but it was definitely less tolerant in the early 80s.
Definitely. It's much more, lots of different people dye their hair, have tattoos, have piercings. It's much more, I was going to say fluid, but that's a bit of a modern word.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, you might go see your bank manager and they got pink hair. And,
so
and
just,
piercings
it was subculture. But I was really lucky because my brother, who's 3 years older than me, went to Glasgow University. So when I was 15, I was able to go and visit him, stay with him, and go to some great gigs in Glasgow. So
do you remember who you saw then? Or?
So went to see the Cramps at the Barrowlands, the Ramones, I think, and Susie and the Banshees, I think, at the QM Union. It was either the Barrowlands, the QM Union, Cider and Black, all that kind of...
Cider and Black, yeah.
Although I would say the Banshees gig put me off patchouli oil for life.
Yeah, that was, to be honest, that was my main complaint about goth. I was a goth for a bit. I hated patchouli oil. I still hate patchouli oil.
Can't stand it.
Yeah. So
I think I went down the front of the gig and just like practically choked and like had to leave.
you saw some goth royalty then. I mean Susie, she's always the goth queen for me.
Yeah, and then seeing them as the Creatures as well, which was brilliant, and actually
that was
really
with Robert Smith
kind of
was
thing.
it? That's when they had Robert Smith, or was that just?
Yeah, no, I think it was just her and Budgie.
Wow.
They just did that thing as well. So yeah, going to see them around that time.
Amazing.
So quite soon after.
Yeah.
So that was kind of lucky. And then about the same time, my aunt was living in Streatham in a Buddhist commune, and so was allowed to come down independently to London to stay with her. So kind of, that was sort of my first sort of London.
That sounds dangerous, yeah. How old were you when you were coming down to London?
I think I was like kind of 15, 16.
Yeah. You must have loved that.
Absolutely. Although I remember going to the roller disco in Streatham.
Yeah, it's roller disco.
It was terrifying.
Why? What happened?
Yeah, no, I just was overwhelmed. I think, like, kind of by people rolling around and like being in Streatham.
Well, it wasn't like the Highlands.
Yeah, no. A little bit much.
Yeah.
And she was working at a place in Croydon called Hockneys, which was that kind of she used to teach yoga there, that kind of thing. So yeah, just got to see that bit of South London, youngish.
So yeah, how long were you down in London for then in Streatham, or was that?
It was only like visits, like kind of thing.
Okay.
So no length of time,
All right, but that just gave you insight into maybe like a different place and all that.
Yeah.
All right, so you went back to Scotland then.
And then so tried to get into Scottish art colleges, and we had a great art teacher who really encouraged quite a few of us gave us a whole space in the art department in secondary school. But art colleges in Scotland wouldn't have me.
Really?
So I couldn't get in anywhere. I mean, I really wanted to go to Glasgow, but it didn't happen. And so I went through English clearing. So it's about 1989, I think, and got invited to an interview in Coventry. Never been to Coventry in my life before. Got the train down with a good mate of mine and got there and went, yes, all right. The new cathedral was astounding, and then the bombed out one, me and my mate just sat there going, it hasn't got a lid on it. Interview went well, and they got offered a place.
Was this was the art college, was it?
So it was the Polytechnic, but it was doing an art foundation.
Okay.
And got the place. I think it started like 2 weeks later.
What made you want to go to art college then? Was there like... Because I had this sort of thing, and then like my mum was like, oh, you're not going to art college, because I had this sort of image that I was going to become like, form a band, and all the bands I like gone to art college. So,
well, I mean, art and music was my thing. It was like kind of, I was pretty good academically, but that was partly because my dad was a school teacher. He wasn't a teacher in my school, but all my teachers knew him. Right. So I had to do a fine balance of being a goth at the back of the class, swinging on my chair and like kind of not care, and smoking in the bike sheds. Yeah. But then passing all my exams so that I didn't get into trouble. That's to be honest,
that's a good balance. That's the way to do it.
I know.
You can go fuck the system, but at least get out of there, get your route out of there sorted, maybe. Yeah.
So so I don't know. I just I never really thought about anything else, art, that kind of thing, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But it was just go to college and get out of the Highlands, basically.
Yeah. I mean, as much as you love where you're from, it's always good to get out.
Yeah, definitely had a taste for kind of being somewhere else.
So what was it like turning up in Coventry though? Because I don't immediately think glamorous. I mean, obviously you got your specials and your two-tone connection, but that was a few years before.
But there was quite a few things going on, but for me also, previous to that in Scotland, I had actually started hitchhiking. Partly because I'd missed the bus coming back from my granny's in Oban and had to hitchhike from Fort William. Anyway,
okay. All right.
But Coventry was like centre of all motorways, and by that time I was really into gigs, particularly into watching New Model Army, like kind of, so just it was like hitchhiking, like kind of, and then hooked up with a few like-minded souls, and then just got really into hitchhiking and to go to gigs.
You are in the middle of the country. You're right. Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about it like that. It is a perfect spot to be if you want to go up north, down south.
I mean, we did
west, east,
London, like kind of. So it was from local, like Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Leicester, Nottingham, Leeds, Bradford, down to London, and then at one point a load of us went out to Ireland and hitched all around Ireland. So kind of went Holyhead, Dublin, Limerick, Cork, back to Dublin, up to Belfast, over to Aberdeen.
Were you still looking gothy then, or like this? You had a different look?
No, I had a different look. Yeah. Like kind of.
Because I don't know how easy it is to hitchhike as a goth, but maybe I don't know.
Well, I was much more crusty then, so.
That might be worse. Yeah, I don't know how to say that. Yeah.
So what happened when I've been dyeing my hair black since I was 15, and then in Coventry there was a great pub called the Rose and Crown where all the goths, punks, grebos, hippies all hung out. Always be fights at the end of the night with various. I
love the word grebo. I haven't heard grebo for a long time actually. That's a good. How would you describe a grebo? Because some people watch this who might not have heard the term grebo.
Sort of bikery crust, like camouflage clothing, like kind of, or just army surplus in general.
It's all right. Maybe I'm going on a tangent there, but I just like that word. I hadn't heard that for a long time. It's a good word.
Well, also it goes along with around that time saw Gay Bikers on Acid, which would be described as being Grebo band. But back to the look. So a friend of mine, I wanted to bleach the black out of my hair, and so Paul, I think his name is. That's really bad. He worked in the chemical factory in Coventry.
Okay.
So he got like overproof peroxide.
Right.
My hair was fizzing. Like kind of.
I'm surprised you haven't got hair like mine now. Because I used to do all that to my hair back in the day, and I think my hair would have fallen out anyway. But I did put a lot of chemicals in it, and funny enough, the guy from Gay Bikers and Acid cut my hair once. Yeah. But anyway, that's another story. Anyway, sorry, back to you. So anyway,
a lot of my hair went to mush. So I inadvertently ended up with dreadlocks, and then the bits that weren't, and there was sort of long bits, short bits, and he was mortified, and I was like, nah, it'd be fine.
It's fine.
I started plaiting bits of old t-shirt into it, and
right. Okay.
And then dyed it pink and green.
Yeah.
Partly because I had some green clogs, being a cloggy, going to New Model Army, and also I borrowed a jumper off a mate in Coventry that was fluorescent green and pink stripes. A few years later, that jumper got nicked, so I got rid of the green and just ended up pink.
Oh yeah. Right. I'm going to ask you, do you have photos from this time?
Yeah.
Don't lie, because I know you have. And I don't think you might not be able to see on the camera we've got on Rachel, but she's got a big pink trunk next to her with loads of photos in. I won't get you to drag one out now, but I might try and.
Well, I think actually thinking of one, it's not too bad, but I'm wearing a PFX Gay Bikers t-shirt with pink and green.
Cool.
Although I think the photos might be faded, or they might even be black and white. I went through a phase of taking photos in black and white around that.
Yeah, I've got loads of photos of black and white in the photo booths from the 80s, and literally because it always, you could suck in and make your cheekbones look great. Everyone looks better in black and white for whatever reason, I don't know, but yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the photos around that time were in black and white.
Okay,
so,
that's fine.
But so then, once I've become fully pink, I actually, still being a cloggy and still being into New Model Army, went to Hebden Bridge and had a pair of pink clogs made, like kind of like in a dolly shoe design. I don't know what happened to them. This is one of the things that I'm really gutted that I've lost along the way. They were like fluoral pink dolly shoe clogs.
Wow,
I loved them.
That's dedication to the cause. Well, if anyone's found them in charity shop or seen them at a booth fair, please contact the podcast. We reunite them with Rachel at some point.
Be amazing. Or we could do a crowdfunder and I could just have another pair made up.
You should do. All right, so yeah, Coventry, art school, college and hitchhiking, going to gigs.
And then I worked some dodgy pubs there, but I also started working at a place called the TikTok Club, which is in Hillfields housing estate, tower blocks, that kind of.
This is in Coventry.
It's in Coventry. So a lot of real variety of bands. As I said, Gay Bikers on Acid, the Bootleg Beatles, a wide range of of all sorts. And then Jerry Dammers did a club night there. And then there was a guy called Paris, and we used to argue over who would work in the cloakroom, because sometimes you have to do the door. If you did the cloakroom, you got better tips. Paris always got the job in the cloakroom.
You're still in contact with Paris?
I'm not, but one of my other friends is. So it kind of there was another connection with London that's where I said, Paris, not the one that lived in Coventry, but that's later.
Yeah,
later down
that's
the road.
fine. All right, so you're doing the door at this
So
place?
yeah, so doing door and encountered Jerry Dammers a bit, not much, because he was doing the club night there. But then I got fired the night the Shaman played.
Why was this, Rachel?
I think they were just axing jobs.
Okay.
But they stupidly fired me at the beginning of the night, not at the end of the shift. So I just went, sod that, and raved. Sort of, it's not even, it wasn't properly raved because it was still on tact days.
So this is like 89 or something?
Yeah, 89, 90, yeah.
Yeah, because they were just sort of, I remember the shaming for them, but they were moving into that stuff.
It was before Mr. C, so so it was still what's his name, Scottish guy that passed away, but it was still pretty ravey. And anyway, and at the same time, so 1991, the Eclipse opened in Coventry, and legendary for one of the first 24-hour rave. Side of the car park. Couldn't afford to go there. It was 20 quid to get in. 20, this is 91 probably, like kind of just before I left Coventry.
Yeah, that's super expensive for clubs back then.
Yeah, and then pills would have been 20 quid, even though I wasn't particularly into that. Wasn't something that I was doing at the time.
I remember ecstasy being £20.
Yeah.
Obviously. People I know who bought pills would spend £20 on an ecstasy pill. Yeah.
We would, so rather than go there, we'd take acid and cycle around the ring road instead.
Yeah.
I did a lot.
Right. That sounds a bit health and safety nightmare. Yeah. Was that right? Yeah. No one died?
No one died. It was like kind of, and there's a great road, I think, going out to Leamington Spa with big old trees that we all thought looked giant broccoli. I mean, as you do, not kind of, until we just go, should we go down and check out the broccoli trees?
Right, okay.
So yeah, so.
All right. So what? So you didn't go in the Eclipse because it was too expensive?
No, never went. That kind of, which was a bit because Doc Scott and sort of it was the burgeon. It was a real start of that kind of. But yeah, couldn't afford it, so it didn't happen. And also at this time, hitchhiking around the place, coming down to London, knew quite a lot of people in London, people that were squatting in Camden, and so checking out some of the other sort of stuff that was going on in Camden, and then Slimelight. whirly gig. There's sort of that gothy, punky crossover. It's sort of early days.
Yeah, there was all them sort of... I mean, we talked about when I spoke, I think it was Neil Transpontine, like, we talked about the whirly gig, and I used to go when it was in Leicester Square, and we had I found a few pictures of DJ Monkey Pilot, wearing some mad hat. And I don't know, I mean, what were your memories of whirly gig? Because it's such a weird sort of place that was...
Yeah, I mean, they're a bit blurry because, one of the reasons that we went there was because you could take your own booze. So it would be like kind of, slabs of cider and like kind of...
Where was it then? Was it still in Leicester Square or was it...
Can't remember because I think the first time I just got taken. Like kind of... and I do remember, I think later it was when it was in Shoreditch.
Yeah, I know it moved to Shoreditch, but it was it was in Leicester Square quite a long time, but... Anyway, that's fine. Yeah.
And I think it's still going to this day.
I think it is still going. Yeah. I'm pretty much. It is probably one of the longest running.
But I do. I mean, sitting under a parachute with like colours, like kind of with some weird music on it. I mean, it wasn't really my thing, but yeah.
No, it was a little bit too hippie for me. Yeah. But then there was bits that I sort of liked it. Yeah.
But we would go from there. Then to the Slimelight, and the Slimelight you could take your own boozes in as well, and then that was a bit more grimy, and at the time the Slimelight still had a pool table and there was still quite a big sort of punk skinhead sort.
Do you want to explain what the Slimelight was? Because again, like, not everyone will know what the Slimelight was.
So the Slimelight is on Thorne Street, which is behind Angel Tube Station.
Yeah,
it's a little square. I'm not sure if it's still the Electro works.
Yeah, I think it's still Electro works. I think clubs always change their names every few years, but I think
so. It's down that little street, and used to be. Well, there is still an art centre, the Candid Art Centre that was next to it. But I just been remembered being led around by the friends that I knew. So a lot of the time I didn't know where anything was. I'm just following them.
No, for sure. I mean,
but around.
Yeah, exactly. I said in Newton, like I said, I know you know London pretty well, but now, like obviously at the time, you're just like you're ending up at parties, and obviously I thought the Slimelight started somewhere else. Because I thought I remembered going there at the end of the 80s, somewhere around the corner from there in a pub or something. But again, I could be totally wrong. I'll Google it or look it up. Or maybe if someone knows, leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I went there and then it moved to where Electroworks is.
Yeah.
And what's funny, did you say there's an art centre next door to it?
Yeah, the Candid Art Centre.
Right.
I randomly had my 40th birthday in there. We had a dinner. What kind of we just hired the room and they provided catering. But that's a random.
No. I mean, I'm asking that is because I remember going to some acid house party there again at the end of the 80s, and it wasn't where Electroworks was, but it was in that street, and they were doing all like painting and stuff.
Yeah,
it was all like, and it was like acid. It was an acid house party. But then there's loads of people doing like painting on big canvases, and I've always been like, "What was that? Am I remembering this weirdly?" So just when you're saying,
quite possibly because they've had a big sort of function room sort of out the back, which could very well have been.
And again, my memory of these times is not the greatest, you know.
And I think they are still going, but I know that they've been having a bit of financial difficulty. So if I used to do life drawing later on when I lived in London. But yeah, if anyone fancies getting into a bit of Candid art, go and check them out. help them out.
Sport Candid Arts, yeah.
But then I left Coventry, got a place in Farnham at the art college there to do a degree in three-dimensional design in glass. Because I decided that I wanted to learn some practical skills. So I was doing fine art, but I wanted to go somewhere where I would, rather than getting a technician to make it for you or blah blah blah. And I'd already started playing around a little bit with glass. So I got in. I tried to get into Wolverhampton, but they didn't want me. Ended up in Farnham. So Farnham's in Surrey, so just outside of London. And I ended up living in Alton, which is one stop after Farnham. I'm in a big house, single woman with 3 kids, and I lived in the basement, which Nick Park, the animator, Wallace and Gromit, he had lived there before me.
Wow.
randomly.
Okay.
And she used to knock money off the rent if I babysat the kids. They were horrors, but that was a by the by.
Shout out to the kids if you're watching now. You'll be
God, they must be
30 years older.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully you're not horrid anymore. Who knows? Might be. Yeah.
But inevitably, Farnham is a bit too close to London, and I don't like living in Alton because I used to come up to London to go to gigs, go to parties, and sometimes get the last train back to Alton. Got followed home, had some really bad experiences. That kind of had a crazy stalker that because the back door to where I was living was right, so we had to go around in the garden and that kind of having strange bloke lurking around. He also had a wank on the train, that kind of of thing. So I wasn't too happy living out there, and I was spending lots of time in London. And by this time, going to crusty house parties, which was sort of normally a band, normally fire in the garden, and then maybe a bit of sort of ravey music in one room, but big old house parties basically. But around the same time, there's a place called the Dungeons on Lea Bridge Road. So now I think we've got to be 93-ish, 93, 94, and met these people, crusty people, dreadlocks, and can't remember what the music was. Probably a mashup again, same sort of mashup of kind of not a rave, that kind of.
Dungeons is an incredible spot.
Yeah,
I played loads at the Dungeons. And I'm sure you did. And
eventually, but at this point, I wasn't DJing. No. But I met these people, and they said, "Oh," and they knew that I was pissed off living in Alton. They said, "Oh, we've got this room in a squat in Dalston. Like, kind of come and have a look at it." I was like, yeah, brilliant. I've never met these people in my life, just that night, kind of totally random. And I went to go and have a look. Big old house in Dalston, Barrett's Grove, room in it. I worked out it would be cheaper for me to commute to Farnham to go to college from a squat, not paying any rent, and I was going to carry on at college, but I'd be much happier, blah, blah, blah.
100%, so, 100%, and obviously you're away from all the mad, horrible stuff that was going on down there as well. But
totally. But
free rent in Dalston.
Free rent in Dalston,
yeah. Come to London, you can all get free renting in Dalston now.
And I have sort of missed a bit actually, because previous to that, I had spent a lot of time in South London. Going to
don't forget I will say do not forget South London.
This is the odd thing. So I ended up into sort of previous to that 92, 93 I had been going South London, got to know the Back to the Planet band people quite a bit, and also started going to events that are at Cooltown on Cold Harbour Lane. Again, it's that mad, crusty mixture of sort of chill-out rooms and bands on and a bit of early rave.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's, as I said to you before, I DJ'd with Rough and Ready, and we toured around a lot in the end of the 80s. And there was all that sort of crusty, squat 80s. And again, we talked about this on the podcast before, how they also, there's a definite a mad little sort of crossover between all that, if you like, Travellers, Squat, Free Party Crew from the 80s, who were more the band stuff.
Yeah.
Then the rave stuff started coming in. Part of that crew were they hated all the techno and the electronic music, and they just wanted it to sound like Hawkwind in 1973. And then the other bits were like, this is amazing all night. And I don't know, did we talk about Club Dog as well, or did you go Club Dog?
No, so I was just going to get on to that kind of that. But so regarding South London, so it's exactly what you were saying. So there's bands like Citizen Fish, The Sea, RDF. Yeah, so that kind of crusty sort of crusty punky crossover. Got ska dubby appeal to it as well in a sort of a weird way. So Cooltown and then Lady Flows. And in comparison to Alton, I was happy wandering around South London, kind of at 1 o'clock in the morning, looking for this venue.
I wouldn't say it was, obviously it's not like some Nirvana. Like
I was naive then.
But there's an element of maybe you are safer in that environment than some country dark lane
where there's nobody else around.
Where there's nobody else about. So if there is some weirdo about you, anyway. But.
So South London, and then because a lot of the people, I used to go to a lot of the Back of the Planet gigs, and I used to turn up. So this is when I was still in Coventry. Turn up at theirs in Catford. Where are we going? And get in the van with them. I don't know what they thought. It was just like, I was just like, yeah. And I used to make Fimo beads and sell them at their gigs.
I don't know what they are.
So Fimo is like a plasticine, and you used to get it in like kind of day glow colours.
Right.
And you just like make loads of day glow beads. They let me have a stall at their gigs. So I went to like loads of gigs with them. And they had a fanzine at the time in which there was an article which was Miss Pink's Guide to Good Bead Making. And this is pre-DJ, do you know what I mean? I was just, I think I had pink scatty dreadlocks.
Alright, so you had is that where you got the name Miss Pink, or is that was the first use of it, was it?
Yeah, pretty much I think that was that. Well, yeah, so in print, it was in the Back to the Panic fanzine, Miss Pink's Guide to Good Bead Making.
Okay. Do you still have that one, do you? Or?
I don't think I have a copy of that.
Right, although I might have to Google that one and find that. If any Back to the Planet fans have got that fanzine, please send us in a scan for that.
So it was weird that sort of when I was in Coventry, and then the early days when I was in Farnham, I spent loads of time around New Cross, Catford, Deptford, that kind of. And then when I finally moved to London, I moved to Hackney, and this is pre the Orange Line, and it was like another world. Like kind of, there was like the same things were going on in South London as North London, but they didn't really. It was really impossible to get to New Cross from Dalston.
When I first started going out in the 80s, I went out to loads of parties in Hackney, and I had loads of friends in Hackney. But yeah, you're right. And then I was South London, and I would go loads of things in Hackney. But this was the point. It was so hard.
It's really impossible.
It was to travel between Hackney and say New Cross, Bermondsey, Peckham. Was take you over an hour, like you have loads of buses.
There's nothing direct, so just all over the place, and it was just a pain. So but then also, I think the other thing was that there was very similar scenes going on. So why would you bother trekking to New Cross to go to the same kind of party that's in Hackney?
No, for sure. I can understand that. Yeah.
It was so kind of odd, but so. Scott in Dalston and commuting to Farnham, which generally meant I'd turn up at college, wouldn't be anyone around, get bored, get the train back to London.
How did your course turn out in the end, Rachel? Did you pass it?
Well, I tried. I dropped out and worked for a glassmaker, actually.
Right, okay,
down in Alton. A guy called I've forgotten his name. I have to look that up. Sandblasting bowls, and that kind of learnt quite a bit, actually, working for him. But I went back. My big plan was to make a pair of Cinderella slippers in glass, and I actually made the moulds, and I'd written a dissertation, and then my tutor said I wasn't allowed to make the slippers. He wanted bowls, goblets, practical things, and that I should have been doing a fine art course if I wanted to make that kind of stuff. So I was disillusioned anyway, that kind of thing. So it was kind of an excuse for me to go have a strop and go, fuck you.
Is that what you did? You're like, fuck you, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And then you put on your glass slippers and like...
Well, I was going to make them so that I could put them on. I had sort of, the mould was sort of half blown, but...
That sounds amazing,
So you never know. I might make them one day.
One day.
I might get round to
right.
it. And then, because obviously I was worried about what my family would think about dropping out, and I had to get myself a job. And so I got a job in a clothes shop called Ad Hoc opposite Kensington Market, which at that time was quite a hub of activity. So this would now be 94, 95. So Ad Hoc was right opposite the market. The market leather goods, antennae, children of vision. There was the culture sort of going on there.
I went there a lot in the 80s, to be honest, like maybe in the 90s. I don't know when it closed, but like I went there a lot in the 80s, but there was loads of different clothes shops, like you said.
Yeah,
there's the hairdressers, and there's tattooists.
And then so work ad hoc, which was predominantly we sold PVC trousers in every colour under the sun.
Pink ones?
yeah, absolutely. And what's the other? Not lycra. That shiny stuff that trousers are made out of. But Olivia Newton-John wears them in Greece. You know that stuff.
I do. First single I ever bought. Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta.
Spandex.
You're the one that I want, and I do remember them trousers very fondly, Rachel. Yes, Olivia Newton-John. Yeah, she wore them well.
And then so there was sort of kinky underwear, and then Barry M makeup, Directions hair dye in every colour, wigs and shoes. The shoe section was run by a different guy called Willie, but and he employed more goths than the other side. We were a bit more freaky.
Oh, okay.
So it was all platform boots, and just total alternative.
So what fashion choices were you rocking then, Rachel?
So I would wear stuff from the shop, basically, because we got a hefty discount.
And you kind of have to if you're working in the clothes shop.
So so it would be black PVC trousers. We also, Diana, the woman that owned Ad Hoc, had bought out the 2 boy London shops, one in Kings Road and one in Soho, and so we had lots of boy London stock. So I had starry socks and quite a lot of sort of boy London bits and pieces. So a lot of stripy tops, pink denim with a lot of fake fur going on then as well, like kind of brightly coloured fake fur. Ad Hoc was next door to Red or Dead, and then next door to Red or Dead was Hyper. And Hyper was lots of independent designers. I had got to know a woman called Laurel, and she worked for Pam Hogg in Hyper. But she also had her own label called Rotababe, and she sold a lot of Rotababe clothing in Ad Hoc. And then she started just making everything that she made in pink for me.
Incredible.
So Laurel, I have photos of that as well, and did a couple of fashion shows for her. And then also I had a few Pam Hogg tops, like kind of, and a few little items. Not that I could afford to buy anything really.
No, do you still have all that clothing, or is that
probably really worn? I have held on to a lot.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing when you actually wear stuff, isn't it? That
it gets really worn.
It gets worn. You go out to a party. It gets you leave it somewhere, or it gets torn, or
I have got one blue and white stripy Pam Hogg top that we could probably pull out and take a photograph and see how battered it looks. It's like a little kind of long sleeved. I love the fact that kind of always really long sleeved, made out of t-shirt material kind of thing, and then elasticated little that kind of top.
I used to go hyper as well, and like you said, it was just full of just independent designers, and you would get just totally mental stuff in there, because obviously a lot of people just come out of like St. Martin's or something and just some really mad clothes, and obviously some of them like they were so crazy virtually no one could wear them, and then they probably shut after a few months. So again, it's that thing of having to find the balance between. It looks totally mental, but you can actually wear it and go and get a pint of milk in it or something.
Yeah, and I suppose the like kind of the sort of Vivienne Westwood's influence as well, of a kind of sort of a bit couture-y, that kind of thing, but not sort of wearable, but just people getting a sort of style that was kind of quite fancy, and then also didn't fit into. So it wasn't. Well, you weren't a goth, or you weren't you weren't identified. It was. And I suppose at the same time you got the ID in a Face magazine and that kind of that, and you have got the club culture, and things are getting much more mixed up. That kind of.
I mean, look, I was really into clothes. For me, like ID was the really important magazine more than the Face to me, because ID was where like all the clothes and the fashion stuff, and like I said that, well, maybe not. well, almost as important as the music, I'd say. But, but all that sort of stuff come through. Yeah, and because by then, like, being a goth was pretty boring, wasn't it? Cause,
although there was some, I mean, people that I work with, that but they took it to extremes. Like, kind of, by now it was like huge hair extensions, like kind of, excessive makeup, like kind of, black PVC, like kind of skin tight, and
lots of piercings in various places. And that's when it kind of almost went into this fetish sort of zone. It was almost,
absolutely. It was almost kind of manga before manga existed.
This goth hyper-fetish. I don't know how else to describe it.
I do. Which is kind of, and I wasn't particularly into that scene. But then I like going out to clubs and stuff, so I would go to Torch Garden, like kind of, and there was a kind of, because I got on with the people that I work with as well, so and they'd be,
How would you explain like what Torture Garden was? Because people don't know what that was. Like.
Torture Garden was a long-running fetish club, but more of a club. With music, but so kind of not even very rave. So a club with areas where you could go and get spanked.
I guess a bit more kinky sort of club. Yeah. But maybe the music was there. Maybe I'm wrong in this, because I never went to Torture Garden, but maybe the music wasn't quite the most important thing at the night.
I think it became a little later. It almost felt as though they were doing catch up with drugs, and so it was still not indie disco, but like I suppose Electro, Depeche Mode, like kind of so dance music, and then because as much as I love the clothes, but my priority was always going to somewhere I want to hear good music. That trumped everything. But then I'd say with like when I got into some of the early acid house and ravey stuff, and like particularly when it's all the warehouse party sort of stuff, and like that's the only thing I didn't really like about the ravey stuff, when it was just wear a t-shirt and baggy clothes, and I understand that dancing all night. Yeah. But I think there's almost that reaction where people do want to dress up in a crazy stuff, look glamorous, look sexy, look kinky, whether it's just for themselves or other people. And as much as there's that like and again we touch upon this a lot in this podcast about say acid house being just about the music and going there, there's a certain bit where you want to go out sometimes to show off and be a peacock. And I think Torture Garden, and really successful, partly because the production values as well. So kind of they would make an effort to dress the club up. So it was kind of the opposite of like going to a grimy warehouse.
Exactly. You got a strobe. You got a strobe, and then someone's written £5 for a red stripe or whatever on
a bit of cardboard.
On a bit of cardboard. That's the only fucking design you're going to get.
So, so it was, and I was just, I was interested in checking all different stuff out. So, so we checked that out. And then around the same time, the George Roby was that was back to the sort of crusty, have a couple of bands on, and then it gets a bit ravey later on. So the George Roby was opposite Finchley Park Tube Station. And Laurel, my friend who made the clothes, she was living on a squat on Blackstock Road, literally around the corner. So that was just, meet up at Blackstock Road, and that's not far from Dalston.
No, I lived just off the Stroud Green Road, but this is early 90s. But I used to go down the George Roby.
And then if they weren't going to the George Roby, I was comfortable going there and sitting on speaker, and because it had a really friendly vibe, and it was kind of it was
so you could go on your own.
You could go on and kind of
you're not going to get hassled or
no, not at all. It wasn't that kind of thing. So that was a good place to go to, and then probably shortly after, bigger events at the Rocket on Holloway Road, but that probably coincides with me starting to DJ.
Took a while for you to start. Yes, all right. So what made you go, do you know what? I want to play some tunes.
All right. Well, I'll put this in because you asked about my first record, and then asking about other stuff in Scotland. in Scotland, a friend of mine, her boyfriend worked for Murrayfirth Radio, and he was a DJ, and he had a room full of records, and I just used to go and borrow records, so I never had a record collection, and then I just never ended up buying any records. So I'm like kind of, late 80s, early 90s, like kind of never bought records.
What?
I was like kind of going...
What?
Yeah. So I was going out, and I just, I was really into stuff, but I was into going out, but I wasn't, it wasn't something that I particularly did. And then I got together with a guy called Adam, and he had some turntables, and then I was like, actually, and I started checking out the Music and Video Exchange in the Narrowway in Hackney, just buying records for £1.
Was it because they were quid, Rachel? Because they were.
It was probably a lot to do with that.
I'm not gonna put in any anti-Scottish jokes in here. About Scottish people. Yeah. But anyway, also before that, kind of, I was really into old school hardcore sounds, and the early Prodigy, kind of. And sort of ravey stuff, and then I suppose that kind of the break beaty. So yeah, I kind of knew sort of what I was looking for, or I got there eventually. But then around the same time, and bearing in mind I never DJ'd, there's big sort of community of squatters in Hackney, and particularly Elmfort Road and London Lane, which is by London Fields. So most of the houses were all squatted there, and then a group of people squatted the building right opposite Hackney Town Hall. It's not the Wetherspoons, but it's next to it. There's a building next to it. I can't think what it actually is now. It's not the club. Isn't the club there? No.
No, so that's the other side.
Yeah,
but anyway, so directly across. And so it was opened up, it was squatted with a cafe, had massive windows at the front, so someone had made all these sculptures of like kind of, I can't remember what they were, but mad looking things that were in the window, trying to sort of draw attention. And then at that time I was still at college, maybe, making glass stuff. So I made just piles of round circles of glass. And then there was, photographic exhibition. And then we started doing parties in the basement. I never DJ'd. Didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. The vibe, like you might be getting drowned out by a punk band, like kind of in the next room and whatever. And but yeah, I enjoyed it, and then I started to get more into it, and then I started to kind of seek out more of the sounds that I liked, which would end up be sort of early jungly, like kind of breakbeaty kind of stuff. So But yeah, so the spiky thing with curves, that's what kind of DJing.
The spiky thing with curves.
Spiky thing with curves. So I can't remember, it was only going for a few months. And so just boyfriend at the time, and sort of his decks, and just getting into it.
Yeah. All right, so what about after them parties stopped?
So around that, so Laurel, we have to go back to Laurel actually, Rotor Babe, the clothes. So she had said to me that there was a record shop on Berwick Street. She sold T-shirts that just said Rotor Babe on them. She said, she's going to take them in. She said, they're looking for someone to look after the merchandise. This would be 94? Yeah, 94, 95. So I went down to see them, met Rocket, who I had actually met before at the Gay Bikers on Acid gig in Coventry, but
that's a good little coincidence. Yeah. I mean that's Rocket Ron, isn't it?
Rocket Ron, yeah. So it was his shop, and so it was a variety of all different kinds of music, a lot of electronica, the Fax label, lots of CDs, and sort of early like Warp Records, Reflex, and then the burgeoning acid techno scene.
It was quite a different sort of shop, wasn't it, in that area compared to some of the other shops in Soho. I mean, I used to go. I think that's where I first actually met you. I didn't really know you that well then, but I knew you enough just to say hello in the shop and all that. But my big memory of that is hearing like first Aphex Twin record on Colin Dale, I think, played it. And then literally the next day I just was in London and popped in and bought the Mighty Force one, white label.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing some interview when they said they just dropped a few copies around, him and Grant basically dropped a few copies.
Yeah, we would always get stuff direct from them. So
Yeah, I think they just popped them in there.
Yeah, I think Rocket had the kind of I think one of the girls that ended up working for them had worked in Ambient Soho for a little while. I'm not sure. Might have to kind of there was some sort of connection.
Yeah.
But so I got the job, but I carried on working in ad hoc. But I ended up working in the boy shop in Soho. So I do the odd Sunday in Soho or an odd day in Kings Road, and then 4 days in Ambient Soho, something like that. And that was quite good. So I sort of kept in with the fashiony sort of thing, and
so you got your finger in loads of different pies then, haven't you, really?
Yeah, and then so originally I was brought into Ambient Soho to just keep an eye on the t-shirts and the hoodies and the bags and all that kind of stuff. And then quickly, because I all of a sudden I was like a kind of record connoisseur, you're buying all these pound records.
Yeah.
But early jungle, drum and bass, which was what I was really into. I quickly became the buyer from vinyl distribution and Southern Record Distribution, who were the main kind of distributors of all those sort of early labels. But I was I cared about it. I was really into. We had a lot of the Detroit techno stuff and the acid techno, and we had a bit of a hip hop section. We had a fucked up beat section because that was like, what is this?
Well, I know. Well, we talked about our good friend Ian Black Mass Plastics used to come in there.
So his stuff and Christoph.
And Christoph, I was going to say Christoph and Praxis. So their stuff was quite fucked up. What the fuck is this? Did that go in that section or?
No, I don't. I think did they go? Did we have? I think we might have had a gab. No, I think Praxis might have had their own section.
Oh my god.
Might have done.
I know he told me some story about the one release, and I think he sold. I can't remember the numbers, but he told me the numbers, and I think it's through Ambient Soho, and it was like, oh my god, that's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was, it was a popular,
Before a mad fucked up record, it was like, oh my god, you got rid of that many.
Yeah. So we sold a bit of everything, but so I kind of became more involved in like doing the ordering in, and it I was quite good at it. And then also, that helped me getting promos to play, and
and that's like you're hearing all the music, you're getting a massive education into that scene.
Totally, absolutely.
You're moving up from your quid records to suddenly,
and actually caring about stuff, and a bit like you saying about Colin Faver, and then listening to Kiss, I suppose, like kind of Colin Dale, and then Hype. So kind of early, and also I was listening to a lot of pirate radio, so Pulse FM and Cool, and they pick up like kind of a lot of that going on in the background, and
I mean like pirate radio is the running theme for a lot of our chats we've had with all sorts of people on here, and that's the place where you can just hear all sorts of fucking weird tunes, and
and so then having got the confidence of like kind of knowing what labels I'm looking for, gave me the confidence to go to Black Market and go down those stairs into the darkness.
Do we want to talk about that? Because obviously, as maybe as a woman buying records in like, and
I mean, there was still an element of snobbery, and it was a real boys' club.
Yeah.
There wasn't. I mean, in Ambient Soho wasn't like that because Vicky ITA worked in there, and there's a few places where, but in comparison to the geeks. And that kind of, and the Domain, and then...
Well, I remember the basement of Black Market, and obviously you'd have, Ray and Nikki behind the counter, and then it would be a sea of mostly male faces. I mean, I'm trying to remember any female faces.
No, and then the early days, it was like dark, and everyone smoking dope, or like kind of, or just fags, like kind of thing, so it was just a bit like smoky and...
Well, that's right, they play a record, and either Ray or Nikki just hold it up in the air, and then literally all the hands would be like, yeah. And like... And so it was kind of combative. You almost had to fight to get these.
I got
labels.
my confidence up to go there because I really liked a lot of the early Congonati records, and he distributed them himself, so you couldn't get them anywhere else. So you probably could have got them in maybe Section 5 or a few of the other shops. The one that was in Hackney, actually, but that was even more scary to go in. So I'd got confidence to go down there, and then also to go to Total Music on Bethnal Green, because that's Sky was working there. And then she was involved in Rude Awakening, the pirate radio station, and then there was quite a few record labels that
I don't think I ever went that shop actually. I mean, I went to most of the shops back in the day, but I don't think I ever went that one. So that gave me the confidence to go out and seek the music that I wanted to play, that kind of thing. Were they, was it open to you down at Black Market, or was it, or was it, like I said, you were nervous going in there? But
Nikki was always absolutely brilliant. And also I got to know Nikki and Ray because they would come into Ambient Soho. Ray would come in and buy, because we sold Drum Breaks albums. And so he would come in and buy Drum Breaks albums and then get chatting, and Nicky would just be laughing hysterically, like as he does, with a big smile on his face.
Yeah, he's always like a funny, happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do remember being offended one time going to Black Market and Ray trying to sell me an Alex Reese, not a good tune. It was cool, and it was really girly, and it was and I just was like. Even though there was a lot of lovely atmospheric, I'm not into musical atmospheric chilled drum and bass. It just wasn't a very good record, and I just thought it was a bit patronising.
Did you tell him this?
Probably not.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Anyway.
So Ambient Soho was great, and around the same, Sarn, who worked in Ambient Soho, Orange, still wears a lot of orange all the time. So Sarn, myself, Laurel, Rotor Babe, Adam, boyfriend at the time, Johnny O'Sullivan, who was known as Johnny Rocket around that time, and another friend, Steve, Super Stevie, we formed a little collective called the High Rise Drifters, of which I have got a drawing of my little logo that I did for us, and also a cartoon that where Steve made us all into superheroes.
Okay, well, hopefully that'll be appearing on the screen right now, okay?
And so we started just playing dodgy pubs, for the Pembury Tavern in Hackney.
Oh, I remember that, My mate lived next to there on the estate when it was... Yeah. Now it's quite posh. It's like, you go in there and it's artisan pizzas and all that shit. It was just
really crusty, dark and that kind of...
Yeah.
Which was great because they let us put something on for free, and so we just took the decks down there. Everyone played slightly different music. Our mates came down there. They made some money behind the bar, and I think we, got given a tenner, or something like that. Yeah. So that was good fun, and we did a few events, parties as High Rise Drifters.
Yeah.
We did one New Year in Stoke Newington, now all block of flats. It was an old school, and we were on the top floor. And Johnny O had decided, for a bit of decor, it'd be a really good idea to take these massive pot plant trees. So not only we've got to take all of the rig, the speakers, the decks, and all the rest of it, we've got these massive trees.
Right. Are they just normal plants? They're not they're nothing psychedelic
No. I mean, I did have some luminous inflatable fish that we used to hang up, and
all right, I won't ask why, but that's fine.
So we did that New Year, and so we were kind of alongside, a lot better sound systems than us, but it was a good laugh.
Well, top floor's a good place to be, although apart from at the end of the night when you move, when you're carrying a sound system down loads, particularly. Yeah, those are the ones where you see who's dedicated, who's still there at the end of the night when the party's over, and they were helping carry the speakers down the stairs.
I think there might have been a point in the night when we felt like nobody even knew that we were up there, though. It's like no
Well,
point.
maybe they did, Rachel, and they just didn't like the music.
Yeah, maybe.
They were just like, don't go up there. Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. No, I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then around that time, I was invited to do a radio show on Rude Awakening. And I think I did one, but then I got really pissed off because I think once a month was for ladies, like Ladies' Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I hate talking on the radio, so no one's going to know what sex I am. I'm just playing tunes. Although when I did do the radio, I would inevitably get messages to like read out loads of names.
Yeah, you kind of. Yeah, I think you have to speak a little. I'm of the thing that you have to speak a little bit on the radio because it's like. And yeah, you have to give bloody shout outs.
Yeah, which is just wasn't into it. But I was just more annoyed about it, kind of that whole thing about, aren't we great? We put one day aside for like female DJs, and it's just like, what about the other? Like,
I know.
That's what pissed me off more about it, because they're all giving themselves a pat on the back, like kind of going, yeah, we're like kind of representing. So
well, there's a really good interview with Ian Jury. He's talking about how 1982 was the year of the disabled, and he was like, "Yeah, brilliant, fucking 1982 is year disabled. What we're going to do for the other fucking years? Just fuck off."
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, don't worry, mate. That's your year. Well, then it's back to normal.
Yeah.
And obviously, my sister Stacey. I mean, obviously, she had the same thing. People put on all female lineups.
Yeah.
And obviously there's certain arguments to, you're like, making sure that, represented, but at the same time it's such a...
Well, it is. It's a kind of...
patronising.
Because we'll jump ahead to where we put on an event which was all female. But it is... Yeah, there's something really thoughtless, and particularly when it's a male promoter who thinks, oh, this is a good idea. Well, I think I'll come back to that.
That's fine. But it's definitely important to discuss this because there is all sorts of issues. And like you said, there's reasons why you might have an all-female collective and doing that sort of stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but like you said, it depends on the angle from. But yeah, we can come back to that for sure.